In this video, I'm going to show you what no other street photographer will. Admittedly, a bit tongue-in-cheek. I know, this title is a bit of a stretch, but there is truth in it. While most other street photographers, for very understandable and justifiable reasons, will only show you their best work, the things that end up working out. I'm here to show you the results of a typical day of street photography, also going to show you my images that don't work, the ones I end up trashing, talk you through the entire process, explain why they don't work, why I end up trashing them, and show you what I end up with, the keepers. I'm also going to demonstrate some actual post-processing, take you through my workflow from culling the images, deciding what to keep and why, and processing a couple of images. Start to finish, stick around, this should be interesting. Sup boys, welcome to 1000 Words. My name is Radu, I'm a street photographer from Romania, and the beverage of choice for today's video is Fritz Limo. Brought to you by the founders of Pancolar, a lemonade the way it should taste. Fruity, juicy, and truly delicious. Best enjoyed ice cold, just like my heart is. I was kidding. My heart is not cold. It's actually very, very warm. Likely because of the weather. We've still got a bit of a light heat wave around these parts. This is basically part 2. I've made another of these videos in the past. Two key differences being that on the one hand, that video was done with Lightroom, and on the other hand, using Windows. This time around, we're going to use raw therapy on Arch Linux, and I am, as mentioned, going to take you through my entire thought process, show you a bit of my workflow, go through the results of a typical day of shooting street photography. I've just downloaded my SD card onto my hard drive, kept all the images, so you're going to see everything. I am going to take you through each and every one of them, talk about them. Well, this is not meant to illustrate any sort of prowess as far as street photography. I mean, I think by now I'm somewhat decently average, comfortably average, very comfortable with my averageness. I do think I've developed a bit of taste, some understanding about what works and what doesn't, but even if this were not the case, I think there's some value in showing the process, showing you examples of failed shots, and talking about what doesn't work in order to help you and help myself, because this is also useful to me to learn what does work by analyzing what didn't work and why it didn't. Now, the value of this is even further enhanced because I think there's really not enough content on raw therapy online, and I'm going to do my best to provide sufficiently adequate explanation. But for those of you that are really just starting out, I do recommend watching this video right here. It's my ultimate beginner's guide to raw therapy. As it happens, it's by far my best performing video on the channel. It's an hour and 20 minutes something, 50,000 views by now, and I've gotten tremendously good feedback on it. Apparently, and it's something I made for my brother more so than anything. He was just starting out with wildlife photography and had absolutely no clue, no idea how to process images. And I used this more so than anything as a pretext, as a reason to make a raw therapy tutorial. But it ended up being rather in-depth. On the one hand, merely scratching the surface and providing the very basics for people just starting out, helping them get a sure footing. On the other hand, it was meant to be a bit of an ultimate guide, taking you through the interface, through the most useful and usual concepts, explaining the basics of image editing and processing, rather, I should say, in general, and with raw therapy specific. I do recommend you watch that if anything in this video turns out to be something that's difficult to understand, because I am going to assume there is at least a basic amount of understanding of how image processing works in general and how raw therapy works specifically. So if any of this is hard, watch my guide. But for those of you that that guide is not necessary, I do hope the insight I'm sharing in this video proves to be helpful. Let's not beat around the bush more than we already did and scoot over to the computer and let's start working. So here we are at the computer. This is the folder I'm working on. There are 70 images inside of here. Well, I did say this is a typical day out of shooting street photography. The high number of images is somewhat uncharacteristic of what I usually go home with. I don't always take as many images as I do here, just because I've recently started thinking more and shooting less, although they say you should do quite the contrary, think less and shoot more, but I often put the camera to my eye and decide not to take an actual image because, while on first glance that may have seemed like something worthwhile, once you frame it inside the viewfinder, it ends up looking like nothing that's worth it. So not every image is worth taking. Not everything that goes through your mind is something that's worth entertaining. But yeah, this time around I was testing the 7 Artisans 35mm f1.2. It's a lens I no longer own, a lens I probably won't ever own again. I did buy it out of my own money, out of my own will, because I was really interested in a fast manual lens to kind of alleviate some pangs I still have for that vintage look and some ideas that keep nagging me. They still haven't left the back of my mind. A bit of fear of missing out. Something like maybe it was better on full frame, maybe it was better with vintage lenses. So I wanted to try something that kind of bridged the gap between, or rather was able to provide a good enough compromise between keeping with the Fujifilm system, because it's a bit of a pain in the ass to change systems. I've done it enough times to know, and while still offering a bit of character. Now, I did say I returned this lens. Sure enough, I returned it because I didn't like it that much. You will get to see, hopefully, once we start looking at these images, that, well, it does look all right, and f1.2 is rather fast, and there's quite a bit of blur to be had. There was really nothing that special to the lens. Well, not exactly expensive, 150 European rubles or thereabouts. Still hard to justify the expenditure because I didn't really like a lot of things about it. Let's just go ahead and mention the fact that the aperture ring was really loose and sloppy and very soft clicks, and I like me firm clicks. The focus ring was slightly scratchy. There was that slight feeling of rubbing metal on metal, and while somewhat smooth, there was a decided harshness about operating it. The lens was gray. I always wanted the black one, but there was none available, so on a whim I went ahead and bought a gray one. But all in all, the fact that it wasn't black, the sloppy aperture ring, the harsh, scratchy focusing ring, the fact that optically it was neither here nor there. It didn't have enough character to justify a manual lens, to justify the f1.2. On the other hand, it was really soft with quite some visible chromatic aberrations, as you will come to see, and the bokeh was really nothing that special. So let's start looking at the images. The way I usually approach things, we were here in the browser view. I download everything off of my SD card, and then go through everything at least once, if not twice or thrice. Thrice? A lot of images are, as you will see, somewhat uncharacteristic of what I usually shoot, but that's because I was preparing to do a review. I was really determined to like this lens. I was really wanting to keep it. I was very hopeful about it, quite enthusiastic about having a fast manual lens for fun. I have my workhorses, the 4 Fujicrons, but I wanted a lens for those days when I feel like manual focusing, where I want to feel like a hipster. Manual focus, fast, wide open apertures, character. But basically, it had all the drawbacks of a manual lens and none of the advantages. Now, this image is part of a project I'm working on. There used to be, not anymore, as far as I'm aware, sadly enough, there used to be a monk in town that glued these Orthodox icons all over the place in town. And I used to photograph them anywhere I could see them, and this is one of them. The Apostles Peter and Paul. I will keep this because it's part of a project, and even if it were not, it's something that I usually test for chromatic aberrations, high glossy reflective surfaces. Now, this is something that I will end up deleting, so hit delete, mark for deletions. I'm really loving the way it looks inside his place. This is a tailor, and inside it was spotless, and the curtains here, the nice old vintage rug. This guy's like 70 something. I went ahead and took one more image where I positioned myself for a better composition, but I didn't have it yet, and I wasn't close enough yet because it's shot through a doorway, and this is really unnecessary, as is this here. Then I gathered enough courage to actually go closer, crouch down in the doorway, and actually take the images I want. Now, these two images, this one and this one, are images that, let me reset this to neutral state. I have started a bit of messing about with images here, but I have to decide between these two images. For obvious reasons, this is the one I prefer, but for those of you that it isn't obvious, let me just first go ahead and point out this part of the image that is really very unappealing. I like what he's doing with his hands, the dynamics of his hands. He's measuring some cloth here. I like that more than what he's doing with his hands here. The instrument he's using here, what is this called? It's an Eker în engleză. It's carpenter's square. Yes, this is a carpenter's square. Now, the way he's using the it's really hard to pronounce. The carpenter's square is much nicer here, but everything other than that, everything else is much nicer here. I like the fact that his face is really much more visible in this shot. I'm not too fond of the way his lips look. It's like he's holding his tongue out. This is a much better view of the face, much better composition overall. So this is why I'm marking this for deletion and keeping this one. Much nicer composition. This is where I'm testing for bokeh, for the bokeh balls and the character of the background blur. If I were to do a review, I would end up keeping this, but since I'm not going to, I will mark this for deletion. It's not something I want to work on or keep. This is yet another scene I worked on for a bit, and you will start to see. I don't usually take dozens of images in a scene, but I do take more than one. This is the first one. This is the second one, going a bit closer. This is the third one. realizing I've cut him out. And the way you want to approach things is to portray certainty. If you cut something out, make it look like you wanted it out. Like, don't show it at all. Mishaps like this, sloppy framing like this, makes an image look amateurish. I mean, either show him or don't. When you want to crop with intention, and this doesn't look like intention. This looks like sloppiness. This looks like not being attentive enough. So delete this, delete this. I'm not sure actually. Perhaps this is worth keeping because he's right in the action there. I like the dust, the debris flying here from... This is a really big ass tree. Hollow inside, so it was probably cut down for security, safety reasons, but yeah, this one's marked for deletion. This one we'll keep for now. I think we're gonna have to make another pass. And let's see this one. This is yet another one where I did a bit of work on. So we'll keep this one as well. I'm not sure which one of these we will end up keeping because they're too similar. This as well. They're too similar to be separate images, so we'll have to decide which one of these we end up keeping. Let's reset this as well. I tried a different kind of framing. My intention is obvious. What do they call it? What's that saying? The intention was good, the execution was terrible. Something like that. I did want to shoot along the tree, along the log, and have him in a corner like this, but it's really unfortunate because there's no part of the chainsaw that's visible, so it's quite a confusing image. It doesn't read well. It's really unclear what he's doing. It's like he's either pulling something out from the tree or pushing the tree. When an image is unsure, where there's a lot of ambiguity and confusion in an image, it's something that doesn't read well, and it's something that basically pretty much always goes to the trash. Yet another of those where I taken for review purposes, where I test for sharpness, minimum focus distance, and the nature of the background blur for the intents and purposes of this video. And this is far from anything that I want to keep. If I was doing the review, this was something I would end up keeping. Usually I don't shoot people from behind, but I thought I saw something here, but it's nothing. There's nothing interesting about this. We'll just end up deleting this. Reflections, shooting through windows. This spells welcome in Romania. Bine ați venit. Welcome, or rather, more precisely, be welcome if you want a more literal translation. But I was hoping for something interesting behind the glass, something happening here. Sadly, nothing happened. I'm just going to mark these for deletion. This one as well, this one as well, this one as well. I just hit delete. You can also click here. This is where I was practically practicing focusing. I haven't shot manual focus in a good while now, so I wanted to see if I still got it, and I kind of do, kind of lost it, but I have gotten used to autofocusing, and boy oh boy, is that easy. And I think I could only go back to manual focusing as a whim, or something like fun days, because for stuff that's serious, there's no replacing a good autofocus system. I liked this lady here with a dog. This is unfortunate, and why I will delete this and move over to the next. That's why I took another image. I hoped this lady would turn her face on me, but sadly she didn't, and I didn't want to wait any longer. I eventually realized the scene is not that interesting, so there's nothing here. I shot a couple of images of this guy inside a newspaper magazine shop, and while this is not as good, you see how soft the image is, and I think I got the focus right. I mean, it's not here, it's not here. It's really soft. Perhaps it's on the phone. I think, yeah. I think I misfocused by 20 centimeters or so. But still, even if that weren't the case, I don't like the way the frame of the eyeglasses overlap over the eyes, obstructing them. So this is going to be deleted. This is a nicer image. I got focus right. This time I did get focus right. And then you meet one person and your life changes forever. This is so nice. This is so nice. I wish I hadn't cropped his hand out, but sadly enough I did. This would have looked better slightly framed to the left, or rather his right, because on the one hand this would have meant keeping his hand, and this empty space here is rather pointless and useless. We'll still keep this image because it might turn out to look all right. Again, testing for sharpness, playing with shapes and colors, and well, good enough. It's still kind of hazy and soft. The slight softness here, if that had been the only drawback of this lens, I would have kept it, but it was much more than that, so no. Will not. I mean, it's really not that bad. Come on. It's really not that bad. I've seen much worse lenses. Am I changing my mind right now? Right? This video. We'll end up buying this lens again. Playing with reflections. Nothing to see here. Move along. Nothing here. Move along. Perhaps this is something that I imagined would look nice in black and white. Let's just very quickly do a black and white, and nah. Just look. And this is neutral. This is just the linear response of the sensor. It's really kind of bad as far as chromatic aberrations go. Other than that, it's not that bad. If you manage to ISO 3200, if you manage to get focus right, but not something I will end up keeping, because this is about keepers for street photography. I tried processing this image, quite a bit of chromatic aberration here. Not that egregious. I mean, it's a 150 European ruble lens. Manual focus, Chinese lens at that. It's not that bad. Colors are pretty nice, and this is really sloppy work. Just very, very quick work, something to test out and see how well this. Again, looking for sharpness and chromatic aberrations and the character of the blur. We don't need this. We don't need these either. This is really interesting. But we'll end up deleting that. I mean, I will keep this. I'm working, and this. Let me just get there and talk about it. I like something about this. This or this? No, this one. This one. I will keep this. I like it. I like the abstract nature of it, and perhaps I'm even going to keep it in color. There's some greens here, perhaps some dark blues here. Light up these and turn up the saturation slightly. I'm thinking about starting a project with some very abstract photography shot through windows and textures, and this is very much down my alley. This one or this one. Yes. Why? It's a nicer composition. There's more of this visible here. I think the focus is better. Is it? There's no difference in the way of focus, but I like this composition a lot better. I like this a lot. Let me show you some other images this might work good with. Okay, this one. This is shot through a textured piece of glass. There's some bars here, and between the bars and the glass there was this piece of paper. And I'm really liking this. Very abstract, doesn't basically mean anything, but it makes me feel something. It's really interesting the way it breaks up apart here. It's almost looking like it's digital, so it's almost like pixels. And this image is from the same series, shot through glass, And this is something that's in construction. There's some renovation going on inside. These are actually crutches leaning against the window. There's some plastic foil here, reflection of the city. This and this and this are probably going to work well together. Nah, nothing here. I thought they would end up looking nice through, sort of like seen through a tunnel. This is just fooling around. I was stopped for coffee with this guy right here. We had a coffee and talked about lenses and stuff. He's a local photographer. He does landscapes. I'm gonna link his website or Instagram here. Sorin Rekitsan. He does really, really nice landscape work. Also trying out portraits and the background blur. And this is where I basically decided I'm going to return this lens. What in the name of all that is holy is going on here in the background? I mean, really, what is going on here? Sure enough, I'm well aware I've clipped the highlights, but they're not clipped here. I mean, they're not clipped here, they're not clipped here, there's no clipping here, and the colors are just very wonky. Let's try and do some highlight reconstruction, choosing color propagation, and yeah, it's really, really broken here. There's nothing to recover. I think I'm, what, like several stops overexposed. But still, on second thought, did I judge it too harshly? I think I may be changing my mind right here and right now. I mean, I used to think this looked really crazy. Let's copy the settings from here and see how well this ends up recovering. Sure enough, there's really nothing more than a few curves and trying to, this is all highlights, this is all highlights, this is the blacks. Let me turn down the blacks a bit, raise the shadows, but the darkest shadows. Open up another set of curves, reset it, and not this one. This is white balancing. Bear with me, I'm trying to make up my mind if perhaps I wasn't a bit rash in returning the lens, and perhaps because what I meant to say when I reached these images here is that it's where I decided to return the lens because of how it rendered the background blur here. I thought it looked really, let's reset this. The greens here and the blues, the cyan here looked really unnatural, not like anything that was actually present there. There was nothing that looked like this, but once you start processing the image, adjusting for white balance, and doing a bit of this, a bit of that. I don't need tone mapping. What else? What else? Let's brighten up his face a bit. This is, by the way, how local adjustments work in raw therapy very quickly. I won't talk much about this right now, but I will at some point perhaps make, where is it? Shadows and highlights. Perhaps at some point I will make a video about local adjustments in raw therapy, because, well, somewhat cumbersome, somewhat sloppily implemented, they do end up working all right. I mean, look, I've brightened up his face, and I can do this and this and this to make it more natural, and I can even show the mask. It's, look, pretty good mask at that. If you ask me, there's, look, getting the hairs and whatnot. I mean, it's not that bad. Moving on. Neither of these images I'm going to take. They looked much better as black and white JPEGs, and I've sent them to the guy, but there's no need for me to keep them because, yeah, it's just playing around. More playing around. I thought I saw a natural frame here, but this is basically 50mm full frame terms, and I was really far away. Nothing worthwhile. Images of my daughter, you don't need to see that because they're beyond the scope of this video. My wife is here. But yeah, let me just show you this. It's not the best pose. I'm not even sure she's gonna want me to show this, but hey, this lens can look alright. Actually, I think I'm perhaps going to try and get it again. Not gonna keep this. I have the JPEG. This is yet again trying to look for chromatic aberrations, and would you believe it? I found them. Ample amounts of chromatic aberrations. Let's see how well, if at all, where is it? The fringe. It worked all right. It got rid of most of the purple hues here, see? See? And that's without even basically going into the equalizer. But if we are going into the equalizer and try to get rid of this cyan here. Yeah. I think this is all right. This is all right. More purple. This is really finicky and fiddly to grab these, I don't even want to call them, but once you hover your mouse over the control points here, you get these anchor points, I guess, and if you grab them, you can work on the curve. The way this equalizer works, you designate the color which the defringe module will take out. So see the cyan here and the purple here. Bada bing, bada boom, gone. Yeah, it's not that bad. I mean, it's 150 European ruble, Chinese manual focus lens. So this is not something I'm going to keep. I digress. This is me just adjusting my viewfinder diopter, nothing serious about it. I did like the silhouette and I was hoping for something interesting, but besides the fact that she was kind of pretty, nothing interesting about that frame. I think this was done on accident. And this is where I want to test out its ability to reproduce color and render blur. Not processed. I mean, the more I look at these images, the less I'm certain that I did a good thing with returning this lens. Now, admittedly, and you will perhaps agree with me here, the blur in the background is rather uncharacterful. There's really nothing in the way of personality here. It's really bland. It's just a sea of mush. I usually like some distinct edges of things in the background, but there's nothing here. It's just mush. It's really just nothing. See, something like this. This is more like something I would expect. A bit of character. People call this nervousness, and it seems a bit agitated once it gets really wild. But a bit of distinct shapes in the background blur, I think, adds character and personality to bokeh, because otherwise you get just like here. It's a soup of nothing. There's just mushy milkiness, and there's really nothing pleasant here. As far as I'm concerned, this is not what nice bokeh should be. This is closer to what I would expect. This part here, this corner right here. But then again, I'm not sure, because I think the way this renders colors is a bit too heavy-handed. I mean, sure enough, red is the trickiest color to capture and portray well without clipping and going out of gamut. But some lenses do it well. This is one more of those situations where I was looking for bokeh and character. Sadly, disappointingly, finding not much of anything. It doesn't speak to me. It's a mess. It's really not the nice kind of bokeh. Here, let me try and pull up an image where I think it's inside lens reviews. Let's go for a classic. See? This is nice bokeh. Distinct edges to objects. This is nice bokeh. You see, there's very good separation, while this is undefined, messy, and sloppy. Even here, look at this flare. Starting to miss my vintage lenses. Look at this nice bokeh here. There's some balls going on. There's really a lot of character here. Look at this, man. I mean, look at this. This is the Konica Hexanon, the 50mm f1.4. Let's see. Let's see if there's anything more I can show you. Let's try and go for another. Even the lowly Jupiter, the 50mm f2. Look at this bokeh. It's soft when it needs to be soft, smoothing out the details, and there's character when there needs to be character. Look. And this is an f2. Let's move on. Continue with deleting more of these images because I don't need them. Shooting people in the park playing rummy. Nothing special here. Just nothing interesting. Just trying to see if I can find something. Working the scene, trying different compositions, waiting for good moments where hands don't come out of the wrong places and obstruct the wrong things. Yeah, maybe this is something that should work. I think I prefer this one. I even gave it a quick edit. Yeah, I'm gonna delete these and keep this one. I like the dynamics of this gentleman here more than I do in any of the other images. This is nice as well. He just pulled out a piece here. But I think I like this one more because it's really obvious what he's doing. Well, here it's a bit coming in front of his chest. I think it's a much more fortunate composition, this one. So let's delete this and see how I work the scene. It's 8 images here. Sometimes I work the scene. Sometimes I stay there for a minute or 2 or 3 or 5 and take photos until I'm happy enough with what I've gotten, and or I'm being shooed away, because that also happens. Now this is nothing at all. In reality, I think it looked nicer, the color here. It was a reflection from a window. Yeah, nothing. Let's delete this. I like the way this lady was all dressed up. Lots of colors and patterns and shapes and flowers here, and her shirt and pink bags and... Yeah, but in the end, there's really not much else besides the whole noise of color and detail here. It's really not anything I'm very fond of. I usually don't like taking pictures of people eating. I don't think it makes them look nice. Of course, if it's really interesting or something really wild happens, like, I don't know, I would totally photograph somebody with a noodle coming out of his nose or something. Not to demean or belittle that person, but to portray the humor of it. Or, I don't know, a child that's full of ice cream all up to his eyes, like my daughter often is. That's funny. That's funny. But other than that, I usually don't photograph people while they're eating. And this is basically reaching the end of this shooting day with some selfies, photos of myself in a mirror. This is where I focused on the sticker here saying new. Perhaps this is going to work all right as a Facebook profile picture. This is the lens, the 7 Artisans 35mm f1.2. And I'm perhaps going to get it again. Maybe, I don't know, I'm not sure. Perhaps not. Maybe so. I think you can tell by the look on my face, I'm not happy. I'm really not happy. I was rather disappointed with the lens by the end of the day. I missed this watch already, the Seiko SNK 809. I sold it to buy this. Did I mention my newfound passion for watches? Did I mention it? The Orient Bambino version 2, generation 2. Boy, is this a beautiful watch. I'm wearing right now the Casio G-Shock GB something 2100, I think. GBG something, it's all sweaty. G8 2100. Yeah, I got it right on first try. So I guess this is it, fellas. No, it isn't. Oh boy. Oh boy, I almost forgot down to the fun part. Let's delete this. Delete everything we've marked for deletion. 59 out of 70 images, we're left with 10. And we're going to need to go through them again and keep. You can use the F3 and F4 keys to navigate back and forward through the images. Let's decide which of these to keep. Not this one. Actually, it's this one that I deleted. First of all, he's showing his back. He's turned his back towards me, and there's not a lot going on here. I think there's a lot more action here. I like the way he's holding the chainsaw better in this image. And while he's not much of a subject here, he's much nicer to look at when he's facing us. Now let's decide between this one and this one. And as Frank Cappa said, if it's not good enough, you're not close enough. So I guess we weren't close enough. Let's delete this one and keep this one. Keep this one, keep this one. Keep this one, keep this one. Delete this one. So we're left with 8 images, out of which I think maybe just this one is a really nice one. This we kept for a Facebook profile picture. These two have basically nothing to do with street photography and are declared purpose. Neither does this. This, maybe. This one is a maybe, this one is a maybe, this is a yes. Trying to decide which one to process. Let's process this one first. So the way I approach things is kind of starting from the back. At least judging by the order these sections are arranged in, but for logical reasons you want to start with the mosaicing, and The default method for Fujifilm for X-Trans sensors is the 3-pass Marcus-Stein method. Raw therapy offers this capture sharpening algorithm, which I'm gonna show you what this does. It's really difficult to see, but it sharpens up the image all right. The way I work with it, I enable it, then press P to see a mask. It's not really a mask, but for most intents and purposes, we can talk about it as if it were a mask. So using the contrast threshold, you tell this tool to only sharpen up the whites, the white parts of the image, because there's really no detail here to be sharpened up, nor is there any here or here. We only want to sharpen up wherever there's actual detail. So once sharpened up, moving on to automatically selected, applying the profiled lens. Oh, I forgot this is the 7 Artisans. So there's actually no, because I'm shooting a manual lens, I'm not able to apply an automatically selected lens correction profile. 7 Artisans usually offers for some of their lenses a lens correction profile. I have one for the 7 Artisans 10mm f3.5, but I don't have one for this particular lens. So we'll just go ahead and eyeball it. I want to slightly squeeze it. You see what this does? It fixes either pincushion or barrel distortion. Let's reset it to the middle. And I think we need to take it slightly to the left in order to... Let's try this image. It's rather well corrected. There's no obvious pincushioning. There's no obvious barrel distortion going on. So basically, let's just leave it at 0. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Let's close this one. What I usually do after applying the lens correction profile, the one we don't have right now, is move away from the, what is it, the transform tool tab, and tick this, the 10 degrees instead of 2 degrees. I don't really know what this does, but they recommend you use it, and I've noticed a more accurate white balance. Let us pick our white balance from here, or here, or here, or here, or here. Now you might wonder, why am I even adjusting the white balance if I'm going to make it black and white anyway? I'm going to explain soon. First, this is okay. So once we're here, let me just demonstrate why we want a good white balance. There's really a lot of ways you can massage your image by working with color channels individually. That's the very reason why they used color filters for black and white photography back in the day. So let's reset everything and use luminous equalizer as our black and white method. But that is the reason why I bother with adjusting a proper, accurate white balance. It matters. Now, soft light is something that I want to keep at around 17. This is where we load our Fujifilm, or rather your specific, if you work with anything other than Fujifilm, camera profile. You can get these from the Adobe DNG Converter installation folder. Choose custom, so you can activate this, activate the loop table and the tone curve. Then go to the exposure tab, check our waveform here. And yet again, I want to start with the lab adjustments. They work differently from RGB color space adjustments. They seem to be much less heavy-handed, much finer. Working with lab color space adjustments, it's a softer touch. While I will use contrast here and also here, and perhaps even draw a curve, I like to start by taking this roughly to around 30, lightening up the image, and if I'm working with color, giving it some extra chromaticity here. Already a good starting point. Scrolling all the way up to our exposure tab. Bit more contrast, a bit more lightness. Checking our clipping. Blacks are clipping quite readily. Only this part of the highlights are clipping, and I don't mind clipping where there's lights or sun. It's naturally very bright, so I don't mind at all. Let's just open up a curve and do this. Brighten up the image as a whole, then open up another set of curves. Give it a slight boost in the highlights. Bit of an S-curve like this, slightly. Now inside shadows, highlights, take this all the way to the left and brighten up the shadows a little. What this does, the tonal width slider, now if it's set to default, and let's take this all the way up and show you what happens. When this is all the way to the left, it tells the shadows slider to only brighten the darkest of the shadows. The further you take it to the right, this will affect shadows that are brighter and brighter still. So that's why I took it all the way to the left. Let's reset everything, because I want to brighten up only the darkest of shadows. Perhaps a bit more. Let's turn on our tone equalizer and brighten up the blacks a bit, brighten up the shadows a bit, take the highlights slightly lower, bit of tone mapping. Let's go for really low value, something like 0.02, take the gamma a bit higher, and this is what this does. It basically softens up the contrast that we've applied here just a touch, even something like 0.01. A vignette filter, because of course. We don't need a graduated filter. Let's sharpen up the image a lot. Turn the module on, halo control, raise the amount slider a bit, check for clipping. There's practically no clipping at all. And see how bright this image is? I like this. There's a lot of life in highlights, so don't compress your highlights too much. When you're recovering highlights, just do it sparingly, just a touch, and don't be scared to crush your shadows. I often find that I'm crushing shadows and I'm letting my highlights clip a little because I don't want a technically correct image. I want a visually pleasing one. I want a beautiful image, not a correct one. If I can get both, sure, but I will never sacrifice beauty for accuracy and correctness. Very low local contrast. Some tools only show their effects zoomed in at 1:1, so yeah, just maybe perhaps a bit more tonal contrast. Okay, these modules, micro contrast, impulse noise reduction, and differentiate are modules I always turn on and just leave them at their default values. Very rarely I play with some luminance noise reduction, because if it's at 0, turning on this module will only work to eliminate the chroma noise. And I don't mind me some luminance noise, but the chroma noise is really damn ugly. Sure, we're in black and white, but it's still, let's see, it still serves to get rid of some splotchiness. Perhaps this doesn't translate well because of the YouTube conversion, but just know that if you only turn this on, it will do chrominance noise reduction and leave the luminance noise alone. Impulse noise reduction only works to eliminate that kind of noise that looks like salt and pepper. I don't think it's easy to see because see this part right here. There's these dots that are sprinkled around like actual salt and pepper. This is easy to see, I think. I hope this translates well through the YouTube video conversion. It's a good module to use at its default value because there's basically always going to be some shot noise. This is what impulse noise is. It's noise that comes out of current passing through the circuitry inside the camera. It's not ISO noise. Let's use audio as an analogy. Think about the background hum. Impulse noise, also called shot noise, is basically the same thing. Noise coming from current passing through the circuitry inside a camera. We're done with the details tab. We don't need to do much here in the color tab, and we're basically left with a good enough image. Because there's only two curves here. Now I could go ahead and do this while watching, grabbing the black point basically here, while watching the histogram, and when it starts crushing shadows here, I want to get this into GIMP because we only have two curves here, and GIMP allows us to use any number of instances of curves. I want to just finish it up, and I usually just massage the contrast ever so slightly in the end inside of GIMP, then apply some noise because, of course, I always, indiscriminately, always apply noise to all of my images in the final stages of my processing. So let's go ahead and open up the curves, and judging by the histogram here, well, I don't necessarily always strive to have a correct black point. Sometimes I feel like it gives the image a bit more punch, a bit more contrast. So I grab the black point and grab it and basically take it all the way to the edge of the histogram here where there's actual signal. Then raise up the shadows a bit. I often give it a slight more of an S-curve. Let's see what it does. Sometimes I do something like this and this very, very slight S-curve. I think it's a bit too much, so let's lower the opacity just a hair. Just a touch of an extra bit of contrast. So we're done with this. Filters, noise, HSV noise, everything at default. Now there's only exporting left. Let's go ahead and do that as well. Let's show you how I manage these images because I promised to show you my entire workflow. This is where I keep my images. It's inside of August. I save one full-size image that's called basically what it's called. I export it full size. So let's just export this. That's one for keeps, let's call it. That's one for archiving purposes. Now, for anything that needs to go online, I save a copy that's 2048 pixels on the longest edge because it's there where Facebook doesn't compress images further. I mean, it used to be the case. I don't know if it's still the case, but I want to be on the safe side. It used to be the case that anything that was larger than 2048 pixels on the long edge used to be converted into smithereens by Facebook. I save this copy as I append the web suffix. You see, I have a lot of webs here. Export this. Let's process another one for the sake of it. Let's go ahead and try this one. I'm really curious to see how this ends up looking. Let's do some capture sharpening. I'm thinking if this is worth doing color or black and white. Applying the Fujifilm camera profile, and I think it's going to be, first let's color correct it. I think something like this. Okay, think we're gonna bit more contrast should do a lot to differential noise, should do a lot to this. So let's give it 30. Let's take the lightness up. Let's give it more contrast, more lightness. Let's stretch it, stretch the waveform so that the white point and the black point are near the top and bottom of the waveform respectively. Now let's go for some more contrast. The highlights tonal width slider works the same like the shadows tonal width. It designates how much, or rather how bright the highlights should be so that the highlights recovery slider has any effect. The more you take it to the right, the brighter the highlights need to be so that they are affected by this one. So it's a good way to fine-tune just how much highlight recovery you want to do. In our case, we want to do quite a bit, because we're recovering a lot of detail here, and I want to brighten up the midtones a little, darken the shadows a little, raise the blacks a little, further recover some highlights, give it a bit more oomph in the whites, some tonal mapping, really small value like this, because if it's anything higher than 0.03 or 0.04, it starts looking really bad. I don't want a vignette filter, quite the contrary. I want to take out some of the vignette, so I'm going to take the slider in the opposite direction. See what it does? It's brightened up the corners quite a bit. Moving on to the sharpening module, let's sharpen up the image quite a bit. Okay, local contrast, take it down a notch, actually quite a few notches. Soft light just gives a bit more contrast. I want to lighten up the lower part of the image, so I'm just gonna use a graduated filter for that. Or better yet, darkening the top part. No, let's keep that right. This shows the actual widget. And taking it the other way works to, like giving it negative values, works to brighten up the image. Just look at the waveform here, see how much it's brightened up the shadows. Then we can further stretch this. We'll do some more work inside of GIMP. So yeah, let's actually give the image a bit more room. Take this to the right, something like this. Colors, curves. Move it out of the way to see what we're doing. Something like this. Get another instance of curves. This time let's draw a slight S-curve. Bit too much here. I think I like it. Let's see how this works, the levels, and stretch this even more. Actually, let's take this pipette and decide that this should be the darkest part of the image, and see if we can... I like what's going on here. This is too much, but something like this works. Something like this works. The great thing with this, you can turn this module into curves and see what it has done. We forgot to bring the noise. Add noise to it then, and only then we export to here, call it JPEG, export the thing. I'm thinking I should perhaps give KD Plasma a try. I've heard some good things about it. I've become so accustomed to working with GNOME that I don't know how I'm going to... What's going on? Oh, I had my numlock off. Why? Yeah. Resize it for web, append a web suffix, and be done with it. Now this has been pretty much it. I hope this has been at least mildly entertaining, if not at least somewhat useful, if not at least a little informative, but hopefully all three. I have been Radu. This has been 1000 Words. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I bid you farewell.